Right, so the brain trust that is your government is now, after happily spending 22 billion that they claim they didn't have, and black hole and everything else, and oh, we've got it now, but we're going to go and spend it straight away on stuff that we obviously had planned right from the very start, which is raising the. Bear in mind, people can't pay for the heating, people are struggling with their bills. So there's so many different benefits if you're going to pay money on benefits that people would have wanted them for. But the left are always a benefit driven government. And we said this, that Marxism and everything else comes into play. Bam! They spend it on the people that won't want to vote them out. Why would anybody want to vote? Anybody who's got those kinds of kids, got those kinds of families, or may have those kinds of families in future, why would they want to get them out? Why would anybody who's currently benefiting from that and goes up to maybe vote in a few years' time, why would they want to vote them out? I don't know if it'll work, but Labour's trying to future-proof himself now, enabling all those families of all those voters to have all that extra money at the expense of everybody else, because everybody else's benefits have been cut down. They've had to pay for extra things, start paying for council tax and stuff that was already supposed to be covered in the benefits and the things that they paid the national insurance for and their income tax, everything else. So they're going to do a review now into the rise in demand for ADHD, autism and mental health services. Well, autism, as you may know, is something you just can't control. ADHD has been controversial over the years, and mental health, they're talking a lot about anxiety and things like this, PTSD. What this does when they do this is, the people who have these conditions, it sends into panic mode because they think, oh great, here we go, I'm going to be put through demeaning, humiliating medicals in which they then fail me anyway, and then I've got to try and appeal it whilst struggling with all these mental issues. That's being one part of it. The other side of it is, before you do a review into why so many people, I mean, if it said why people are taking reactive depression tablets so much, that's a bit different, because reactive depression is something that lasts for a short amount of time, usually an excuse for time off work, whether it's real or not is my point. But when you're talking about long-term mental health, it's like, right, before you launch your inquiry or whatever else into the people and start accusing the people, what they're doing is they're hinting that people are taking advantage of the system. So people are faking autism to take advantage of the system. How about, if you're going to look at mental health, you look at the fact that you've had Brexit, you've had 30 years of austerity that used to go up, on, off, house prices used to go up and down. All that's gone. People can't afford you've got more food banks in the country than ever. The country is being invaded, both on a council level, on a legal level, on an illegal level, from the beaches to the cities, from the flights coming in. We're being invaded. We know we're being invaded. There are knife attacks nearly every week, if not every day now. You go on X and there's just murder, death, killing, MDK, murder, death, kill. It's just one thing to another. Women phoning me up frightened because of the level of violence on the streets that is there now. They're worried about their children being raped. They were put through lockdowns that didn't need to happen. There were people who are scarred for life because their loved ones died whilst being locked down away from them, which they're never ever going to get over. I could go on and on, but I don't need to, because you guys were there. The stuff that they've put us through, and many would say deliberately, and I'm going to sit on the fence for this one just for the sake of the integrity of this video, many would say they put us through deliberately. We've been put through absolute hell over the last I don't know, let's say 10 years. 2016 for Brexit, yes. So let's say 10 years, right? Over the last 10 years, we've been put through hell, rogue governments and everything else. So if you're going to start launching a review into rising demand for mental health services, how about look at the mental life you have given people, the torture, the mental torture in the lockdowns, the worry, everything you have put people through, selling out your own countrymen, and bringing other people in. What do you think that's going to do to mental health? So now they're going to have. Don't get me wrong. Because of human rights, there's not much they can actually do to people with mental health, especially when they're in a position like I'm in, where I'm a danger to other people if you push me into a situation, and I am. So, but it's going to make a lot of people worry, and it's going to increase a lot of those. When you put stress on top of a mental health problem, it's going to increase them. So they want to spend 22 billion on raising the child cap, and immediately they want to launch a review into why so many people are using the mental health service. Well, how about you didn't spend the 22 billion on what you spent it on, and perhaps you spent some money that you haven't spent for the last 40 years on actually learning about mental health, because you have the NHS has one therapy. They will lie to you and say they got multiple therapies. They have one. Cognitive therapy in a group, cognitive therapy on the phone, cognitive therapy one-on-one if you're lucky enough. But it's cognitive therapy. But they will get around that, and they'll talk you into going into things thinking you're going to get a fresh start, and then you find out it's cognitive therapy. You've been lied to. So they offer one standard therapy that it doesn't work in 6 weeks. It doesn't work. They give you tablets that aren't even for the very thing that you have wrong with you. And when you ask them why, they say because it's been known to work in the past, or I've taken the tablet for something that seems to have helped with a mental health issue, and I'm like, that's helping with a mental health issue. Carry on taking it then. But it's not for mental health issues. I know, but if it works, that's a doctor, that's a scientist saying that. Take that tablet that's not designed for any of what it seems to be helping with. Right? This is the attitude. So it just really annoys me, all this, because you put people through a decade of hell, and then you spent 22 billion on raising a child cap that no one was asking for. No one was asking for. You got a whole country of voters asking for things. No one was asking for that. I'll tell you what people are asking for. They're asking for the 1 in 4 people that attempt to take their life, especially men. They want that number to come down. They want people, because as well, men around in the 40s were particularly at risk. It's now got to men in 70s as well, and in their 20s. They want to stop, and women attempt it nearly as much. They're just not as successful. So people want men and women in the Western world to stop wanting to kill themselves. That's what they want. And the only way to do that is to plough some serious money, like 22 billion, into actually doing some real research into mental health that we haven't done for 40 years. We know half these tablets don't work. We know the ones that do don't really work. A lot of them are just making people high, or they're patching the problem over. Hence, when they come off the tablets, the problems come back, because they don't understand enough about mental health. My God, they can't even prove that consciousness is in the brain. We say the consciousness is in the brain because it's the most likely logical answer as to where it is. Proving it, we've got some data that we can measure. We can see electrical activity go up when certain things happen, but that's brain activity. Actual consciousness, there is zero evidence to support where it's kept, how it works, or anything. We have no idea. And that's why I laugh at the idea of us making AI. So what they could be doing is, rather than keep letting these pharmaceutical companies keep raising the prices for drugs that don't work or do damage to people, is to actually put some money into understanding the problems, and also into offering things like counselling, which is not available in the NHS. They don't deem you worthy of it, when counselling can be one of the most mid-term effective treatments that there is for mental health issues. For me personally, that mixed with a couple of other techniques was the fastest working, best thing I ever did. And the problem with it is it got really expensive because it's not available on the NHS. It used to be able to get 6 sessions on the NHS. That was for a reason, because it worked. Cognitive therapy saves a lot of money because it's all the same therapy. But it either works or it doesn't. So how about it wouldn't have cost 22 billion to allow people to have to allow some people to have counselling. It really wouldn't. That's what a lot of people need, is just a bit of counselling. I'm not saying it'll fix everything, but it will damn well help. But no. Raise the child cap. Keep paying for the drugs to be given to people that don't work. Keep paying for people to become prescribed junkies. Because here's the other thing. And I'll finish on this. You get prescribed a drug and you say, before I put this drug in my body, is it addictive? No. Are you certain? Because I do not want that problem on top of everything else. No, definitely not addictive. Definitely not addictive. And I could name 2 drugs this has happened to me with. And then 3 years down the line, Mr. Wood, yeah, I need to talk to you about something. Okay? Yeah, so-and-so drug that you're on. Do you remember we put you on that for a couple of reasons? Yeah, I do remember. It was because it worked on 2 things at once, which was brilliant, and it was also not non-addictive. Yeah, about that. We found out through further research that it is addictive. What? So I had to come up. Thankfully, coming off it, that tablet wasn't too bad, but it could have been, and other tablets have been terrible, and it did cause me to go a little bit funny for a while. And this is what happens is that they say with such confidence that so this tablet's not addictive, this tablet will do you no damage, and then unfortunately that you are the guinea pigs. So then you go in there and say, oh, I'm feeling really ill, or I remember being given beta blockers once, and I didn't know, they didn't warn me about anything, and I went into the doctors one day and I was my breathing was like that, and for some reason I think I was so anxious at the time I didn't even notice. So I was like that with my breathing. But as I said, I was too worried about other things to notice. So my doctor said to me, how long has your breathing like that been like that? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I don't know. I said, I don't know. And he said, well, I saw you 4 weeks ago. I was like, yeah. And he said, and I prescribed you whatever it was, beta blocker. And I was like, yeah, you did. And he's like, right, I need to take you off them today. I'm like, why? And he's like, because that's what's caused your breathing to be like that. It's one of the known side effects that can happen. Your breathing's like unacceptable. Like you're really not a good place, basically. So that needs to stop today. How about warning me about that possibility before I took them, so that I could have noticed that myself and gone into the doctors a lot earlier before I was in any danger? Same as another tablet, and I can even name this one, called Duloxetine. This was when I was in my 20s. I took a tablet called Duloxetine, and my family were trying to tell me I was getting more detached from life, from feelings, from emotions, because the idea was it was supposed to change your perception of pain, physical pain, and also mental pain. So it sounded like a cool idea, but it was something the doctor had brought up. But I was becoming more detached, and I could feel it. It was almost like I was looking at my own hands, and it was like they belonged to someone else. And I realised I was losing myself as well, because people were telling me that I wasn't being myself, and it meant less and less to me. What I mean is I just didn't care in the end. At first I was worried about it, then I just didn't care, because I was becoming so detached from myself. And I don't think anybody would have got me to pay attention, if I'm honest with you, because I was just becoming emotionless until I woke up one morning, and for absolutely, this is crazy, right? I woke up one morning, threw myself out of the bed. And when I say threw myself out of the bed, I don't mean with some kind of pre-plan. I woke up and threw myself out of the bed, straight through my wardrobe doors, smashed them. Wardrobe doors come straight down on top of me because I just smashed, completely annihilated them. Somehow threw myself from the bed, straight through. Lucky there was nothing else sharper there. Straight through the wardrobe doors, smashed them, smashed the wardrobe. All came down on me. And I remember, obviously, my missus woke up and like, what? She was like, what was that for? And I looked at her and I said, I don't know. And she said, are you angry? I was like, no. She said, did you dream? I said, not that I know of. And she said, will you go to the doctors with me now? And I was like, yeah. We went to the doctors. I went and told the doctor what had been happening. And he said, yeah, I thought that might happen. What? What? Thought that might happen. Yeah, it can be one of the side effects. You irresponsible. I mean, when I came off that and I started coming back down to earth, I thought to myself, what if I had even rolled over and backfisted my girlfriend in the mouth and then didn't care about it afterwards? It'd be bad enough backfisting her in the mouth, right? And then afterwards going, even if it was an accident, just not caring. Or what if I don't know, what if I pushed her out the bed and like tried to harm her? Or whether it was deliberate or not deliberate, what if I'd harmed her? What if I'd scared her? What if I'd done something to her? Like, I wouldn't have forgiven myself. With tablets, no tablets. If I was capable of throwing myself... I mean, if you'd see the damage I did, you realise that there was no personal safety and nobody else's safety thought about. Straight from being asleep. So I could have hurt her by mistake. And you're telling me that it's not worth mentioning to me that these side effects could happen when it could be putting someone I love. And I really did love this girl. When I really could have backfisted her in the face or something. That to me was a learning experience. And that was when I stopped trusting them with what they were giving me. It was in my I think I was 29, just about to turn 30. I was like, right, the game has changed. Because I have other people to think about and you guys aren't thinking about them, you know? So I'm sorry to get onto this, but when I see these things, they're launching their review into you know, ADHD and everything else. I mean, autism. Do they think that people are going out and faking autism? There's a specific test for autism that can't really be faked. There's about 5 or 6 doctors that assess you, I think. ADHD, I don't know enough about. Anxiety you can fake, but you can only fake it on a form. When you go to a medical and you don't really suffer with anxiety, you're found out within 5 minutes. I've heard people say they've been and they're found out in 5 minutes. So how about instead of doing a review into the fucking mental health services that they know are broken anyway because they broke them, how about they do a review into them and the other governments' behaviour in what's caused this country to go into a massive mental health decline? Name any country that wouldn't be in a massive mental health decline after all that they have put us through, are still putting us through, and plan to continue putting us through in the future. It's not over by a long way, and the tyrant is not finished. He's made that very clear. More tyrant policies coming very soon. The mental health of this country is only going to get worse, and don't matter how many reviews or what they do to the benefits. When you talk to your population, it doesn't matter what you threaten them with or what you do. That mental health's going to keep going down, and you know it is. And this is what gets me. These bastards want to do this review now, and they know that they are primarily responsible for half the unhappiness going on in this country. It disgusts me, which is why I feel like I need to say something on Days Out Today. Anyway, peace out to everybody else. Love you all. I'm Tom Fury. This is Zero News, and I'm calling it a day for now.